Thank you so much, Moritz, for your presentation. And now let's welcome on stage our third competitor, Illona Dausse from the Leiden University College, The Hague, with her project called Defining Borders for Bison Within Borderlands, Modeling and Investigating Reintroduction Scenarios for the European Bison in the Belarusian-Ukrainian borderlands. In a work, she used mathematical modeling techniques on Excel in order to investigate the suitability of reintroducing a small group of bison in the area of 1,000 square kilometers in the Belarusian-Ukrainian borderlands. Let's hear from Illona herself.
Hi everyone. So my project is defining borders for bisons within borderlands, modeling and investigating reintroduction scenarios for the European bison in Belarusian-Ukrainian borderlands. I created a mathematical model that would see how a small group of bison would react to being in a 1,000 square kilometer area in the Belarusian-Ukrainian borderlands. But why did I choose the bison? The European bison is an endangered species. It almost went extinct in the 19th century. And it is also a keystone species. So a keystone species is extremely important to ecosystems because they hold entire ecosystems together. They affect geomorphology, plant biodiversity, and nutrient cycles. To this day, they're being driven to extinction due to overexploitation and slow reproductive rates. So what did I do exactly? So in order to see whether the bison can be reintroduced, we create a mathematical model. I created 3 models, one scenario with no stressors based on vital rates. So vital rates are fecundity rates and survival rates. So low, average, and high scenario just means that I used low survival rates and low fecundity rates. And then high is just high survival rates and high fecundity rates. So the bisons are doing very well. For the one-off mortality events, I simulated a drought at starting 49 years after the bisons were reintroduced, using a very intense drought and an average drought. And for the chronic mortality event, I modeled tuberculosis and brucellosis, so a disease outbreak, which would last for around, at least for my model, lasted around 50 years for very intense tuberculosis and an average level tuberculosis. So my research question and goal is that I will be using a population model to assess the suitability of an area of 1,000 square kilometers in the Belarusian-Ukrainian borderlands and the ways in which it may be affected by chronic and sudden events. Tuberculosis and brucellosis were chosen as the chronic stressor because bisons are especially vulnerable to the disease, and the one-off mortality event is just used because it's very frequent in the area. So this is my goal of the study. As for my methodology, the model reference I used is by Miller and Ankley in 2004. I use a Leslie matrix. As you can see, there are numbers in orange and in blue and in green. I use survival and fertility rates, but in order to get these numbers, I need to use certain equations. These equations are the PI and GI values, as you can see on the right. And these numbers I acquired them from just simple research on the internet and used upper and lower standard deviations in order to get my higher and lower values. For the fecundity rates, which are in green, I just put them in. I didn't have to do any calculations. And using this matrix that I put into Excel, I'm able to create a model along with other calculations, but I won't be explaining those. So yeah, this is just my raw data that I got, and then I use these numbers to calculate and put them into the Leslie matrix. Here's a screenshot that you can see from Excel. So there's 100 years, so we're modeling for 100 years, and within that time span, you can add in a drought or a mortality event to see what occurs with different numbers, of course. So here's some of my results. One second. Here's some of my results. So this is my graph for the normal scenario. The gray line that you can see, it is the first to reach carrying capacity. So carrying capacity is represented by K. And it just means that the population is oversaturated. They may either plateau or run out of resources, which is an issue. And then the purple line is the low scenario, which is the last to reach carrying capacity after 100 years. This is my chronic event. So you can see I added it at 49 years. So there's a steady increase, but then it drops for around 50 years. But I'll explain this later. So this is for tuberculosis and brucellosis. So yeah. And this is for the drought, again, at 49 years, but there's only a very, very small increase, and we can see that the population recovered after 10 years. So for my results in discussion, we saw that there was a 31.3% decrease in the population for the high scenario for tuberculosis and brucellosis, and 22.5% decrease for the average scenario. For droughts, there was a decrease of 12.5% maximum for the most intense model, and then for the average model, only a 6.3% decrease. So these numbers, they just show that the results are not super intense to the mortality. However, what are the value of my findings? What does this mean, in essence? For tuberculosis, it means that, again, the effects are small. We have to keep in mind that bovine tuberculosis is not yet eradicated in Europe. So the only thing that, if this were actually to occur, if we were to actually put the bisons in this area, we would have to start calling them, which is just a controlled killing of bisons, because otherwise they could spread the disease to the rest of the herd. So if there were monitoring in place, this could be there would be no large issues. For the drought, again, the effects are small, and there's recovery after 10 years. But despite this, we have to take into account that climate change will increase the intensity and the frequency of droughts. Of droughts. And yes, so despite this, droughts will not be the main cause of bison deaths. It's actually due to increases in temperature that bisons will die off, because body mass of a bison will decrease as droughts increase, and because smaller body masses survive better in heat conditions, bisons may actually survive in harsher environments, which could better support ecosystems. So in fact, droughts would not kill off bisons. It's the increase in temperature that could affect them, because it could lead to more disease outbreaks, as well as more wildfires, because 41% of Belarus is forested. So we have to take that into account and put up measures such as tree thinning or spacing out trees. And actually, interesting, I noticed this yesterday. Bisons actually naturally create they reduce the risk of wildfires because they graze a lot, which separates plants and creates less risk of wildfires. So we just have to help them out and put up more measures. So in conclusion, heavy monitoring systems avoid tuberculosis by culling. Droughts won't reduce the population, but the increases in temperature will be the problem. And we have to take certain measures to make sure that the bison population survives in the end. As for the importance of my findings, I just want to say that according to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, the main driver that heightens disaster risk is biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. So we really have to take into account these keystone species, because they are incredibly important so that we avoid ecosystem collapse. And even though I'm investigating bisons, we have to take into account that lots of keystone species are just insects. So this, reintroducing a huge mammal is very difficult, but it would be a lot easier to just reintroduce insects. And again, the majority of keystone species are insects. For example, the dung beetle reduces methane production by cows by 40%. And it's just a bug. Like, it's really easy for us to fix this issue, to reintroduce insects. So yeah, just take into account that not all keystone species are big mammals. Thank you.
Hi, Illona.
Hello.
Congratulations for your position in the top 10.
Thank you.
So it's your second participation this year.
Yes.
Was it more difficult than last year? Did you feel the pressure?
No, I felt like it was easier this year, but I feel like, at least for me, my project was more difficult to explain because it's more math. So for me, it was more difficult to explain. Yeah.
The subject itself. So bisons, why bisons? Do you have a passion for such mammals?
Not necessarily, but it's one of a keystone species. So it's if we don't have this species, the ecosystem we might have ecosystem loss. So yeah.
And you also discussed their introduction in the borderland between Ukraine and Belarusia. Has this anything to do with the news?
No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with the news. It was just one of the areas that had the highest HSI index.
But is the current situation, would that be a threat to the reintroduction somehow?
Probably. I don't know. I think I created this project before that happened. So yeah, I didn't take that into account, but I probably would have if I had known. So yeah.
Now, Guillaume told me that you are already at university. What do you study?
I study this major called Earth, Energy and Sustainability.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering, is your study not sometimes a bit depressing?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, in a lot of my, for example, I'm doing a course called Environmental Governance right now, and it's a course completely on like alternative ways that we could be taking care of the environment. So the fact that we don't do these things, it is, of course it's depressing, but then if, there's still positive, there's still courses that do make you think like we can change things. So it's not always negative, but yeah, I do think it's not the most joyous study ever.
Of course, but do you feel like you can do actually something? Maybe even did this project make you feel like you could have an impact?
Yes, I mean, yes, definitely. It just made me realize that we have a lot of models already. We have a lot of, because I didn't create this model. It's a model that's already existed for a long time, since 2004. So if I can do this, and I'm in university, I think that, the experts, they can create some crazy models that like really show different sides of what is happening, and then it's all about collaboration. Honestly, it's about like the ecologists like making these models, and then the economists or environmental economists like seeing whatever social impacts, whatever economic impacts. So it's all about intersectionality and collaboration. Then if we don't do that, nothing will happen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now that you talk about collaboration, did you do this project solely alone, or did you have help?
Yeah, just by myself. Yeah.
Very good. If you could have help, which person would you ask for help?
If I could ask for help, I mean, of course, I did it with help from my professor. But if I could get even more help, I would just ask for more professor help and for them to actually show me like what do they do, because this is a model that students make, but what do they make in their own time? Because a lot of my teachers are researchers. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Congratulations.